Hey, it's Tori, and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a little bit different. I figured I would do like a sit down story time chit chat with you guys about the last week that I just experienced. As you can see from the title, I saw 5 absolutely incredible bands within a span of a week. We saw Camelot with the lovely Melissa Bonney, Battle Beast, Xandria in Houston on the 5th of September. We flew in on that Sunday. And then this past Sunday, the 10th of September, we saw Delane and Visions of Atlantis in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I figured I would just do this video because it's easier. It's easier to talk about it than to try and type out everything that happened. Because one, I don't want to make it too lengthy. Instagram posts that are super lengthy get boring in my opinion. And 2, I figured you guys would want to know and you'd want to come along for that journey. So we're going to start off with Houston, of course. My husband and I flew from North Carolina to Houston on Sunday the 3rd. And, you know, the plane was absolutely fine. We took 2 planes from our hometown to Charlotte, North Carolina, then Charlotte to Houston. And everything went well. There was no issues. We got to the Airbnb. It was a cute little place downtown, like right in the center downtown, directly across from the Toyota Center. Like if you guys know Houston, then you'll know where I mean. Literally 4-minute walk to the House of Blues and about a 5-minute walk to Discovery Green, which is like a really nice park area in downtown Houston. Now, I'm really not a city girl at all. I don't know how people can live in a city like that. I get very overwhelmed and claustrophobic easy. It's because I grew up in a tiny little village in the northwest of England in Lancashire, and I'm a country girl at heart. You stick me either in the countryside in the mountains or on a cliff by the sea, and I'd be happy, you know. So I was a little bit worried, but Houston was really nice. Like we got a super nice vibe from it. Of course, there's that southern hospitality, and I do live in North Carolina, but the city I live in is such a huge melting pot of people from everywhere all over the states that you don't really get that kind of southern hospitality here. And Sunday evening, we were walking to a restaurant, and we were trying to find a restaurant, and I pulled out my phone, and this couple walking by, like they said hey and carried on walking, and she saw me pull my phone out. And like literally 30 seconds later, they turned back on themselves and they're like, "Oh, would you like us to take a photo of you guys?" I'm like, "Oh, no. We're just trying to like look up a restaurant in the local area." And she's like, "Oh, okay." And they're like, "Oh, well, we are going to this restaurant. You're more than welcome to join us." But, you know, they were all dressed up really nice and it looked like they were going on a date night. So we didn't want to ruin that because we were just in like shorts and t-shirts from flying on the plane, so we didn't want to like intrude. But what a lovely gesture. And that restaurant we did end up finding that evening was perfect. It was so delicious. My husband, of course, he had to get a steak. He was in Texas. Steak is a thing over there. And that, like, I am not a red meat eater at all. Red meat is really not my thing. And so I did try it. Of course I had to try the steak, and oh my goodness, this thing melted in your mouth. This is one of the best steaks my husband and I have ever had. And I got myself like some like panko breadcrumb crusted chicken with like a lemon sauce and mashed potatoes, and that was delicious. So yeah, our first evening in Texas was a huge hit up until we got back to the Airbnb. Now, again, this Airbnb was downtown. It was an older building for America at least. It was from like the 1920s. So you can imagine the windows just let every single little piece of city noise in. Now, it was a weekend evening. It was Sunday, and there were 2 car parking lots, whatever you want to call them, like one to the side of us and one directly in front of us. And both of these lots had these little marquee tents where they were renting out those electric scooters that you see people zipping around on in cities. And they were playing super loud music up until like 3 a.m. There was an event going on at the Toyota Center. There was, of course, people driving around with their windows down and music blasting, revving their engines, and huge trucks. And so we really didn't sleep very well that first night. Also, it's the first night, you know, in a new place. And I don't tend to sleep well anyway in a new place that first evening. New bed, new place. So 3 a.m., 4 a.m. came, and I think we finally drifted off. And then that morning, Monday morning came, and I think we got up at about 9-ish because Old School Nerd was driving in from where they live, and we were going to hang out with them for the day. So we get ready. They get to us about 10:30, and they pick us up from the Airbnb. Now, this is the first time I am physically meeting Old School and his lovely fiancée Chelsea, and I love them. I love them so very dearly. I'm so excited to spend more time with them in March. Hopefully maybe a little bit before then, but we'll see what happens. So they pick us up, and while I was planning this whole thing, Chelsea reached out and she's like, what would you like to do that Monday? Because Monday was the day we could explore a little bit of Houston. And you guys know my husband. He is a huge sci-fi, space, Star Trek nerd. And of course, being Houston, I was like, well, you know, he's coming along on this journey for me to go and see these bands. So why don't we go to NASA, if you don't mind, if we go to the Space Center? And they're like, yeah, of course, let's do that. We can take you guys there. Now, they've been there a couple of times before. Old School is awesome, you know, a big space nerd. So you put him and my husband together, and it was just amazing. It was wonderful to see. They took us over there. We spent a good like 2-3 hours just exploring the Space Center and the rockets, and it was so magical seeing like my husband's inner child come out, and he was just like zipping here and there. And then, you know, Old School has got all this knowledge, and he was talking to Robin about it, and me and Chelsea just stood in the back like just admiring everything that was going on. And then after that, they took us to this incredible barbecue place. It was called the Pit Room, and every single item that we tried was amazing. Like usually, you know, there's maybe 1 or 2 things that are like top notch, and then you get a side and it's okay, it could do with something, or it's just meh, you know. But everything was delicious. Now, as I said, I'm not a red meat eater, so I didn't get any of the beef brisket or beef barbecue. Robin did, my husband. He got some chili, and I think he got a little bit of brisket. I can't quite remember. But I tried their sliced turkey. Now, a lot of people think turkey is dry. No. That turkey was absolutely delicious, and they gave me this huge pile of sliced turkey, and I could not finish it all. Then I tried their mac and cheese and their potato salad. We were so full after that meal, but then Chelsea had the idea to go over to this chocolate place. I think that's what it was called, but I don't quite remember, because they had this huge, like 11-inch slice of chocolate cake. Chocolate cake with chocolate ganache. That cake was so rich, it was so decadent, and so big that the 4 of us could not finish it. Like, it's one of those cakes that you need a cold glass of milk with. But of course, the shop didn't sell it, sell milk to go with it. And then after that, like, we were absolutely stuffed to the nines. You know, just could not move, was ready to go home, ready to sleep. But then we decided to go to this place called Cidercade. Now, it's pretty much exactly what it says on the tin. It's an arcade full of old pinball and arcade games from like your childhood. Well, my childhood. And then they sold like different flavored ciders, and we were probably there 1 or 2 hours, and by the time 9:30 came, we were all yawning and all tired. Robin and I just hadn't slept very well that night before. They'd driven in, like, I think it's like a 3-hour drive for them that morning. And so we were like, okay, we're done. We are ready to go back to the Airbnb. And so they graciously drove us back to the Airbnb and we went to bed. And thankfully, with it being a Monday night, the city was pretty quiet. There really wasn't much noise. And I think we passed out until like 7-ish for me, because with being in Houston, it's an hour behind North Carolina, and 7 for me was 8 o'clock for me, and my body's usually awake by 8:30. And so the day came, that Tuesday, the 5th of September came, and that was the day we were there for. It was the concert, and Old School Nerd was supposed to be having an interview with Marco from Zandria, and then we had been connected with Camelot's tour manager, Roger, and we were supposed to be doing something with Camelot. We weren't quite sure what yet. And it turned out we were supposed to be doing an interview with Thomas Youngblood. But then, something happened behind the scenes with Camelot. I think it was the only day that they could get their drummer Alex home. He's just become a new dad to twins, and of course he needs to go home for a little bit to meet his new babies. And that was the only day they could get him to the airport and to fly him out. And there was just a lot going on. So to no fault of anybody's, none of these interviews actually happened because there was just so much craziness going on. And Roger and the rest of the staff, who, like the stage manager and things like that, kept apologizing to us. And we're just like, no, stop. We're at your disposal. We are secondary in this. The bands and the crew and everything for you guys comes first. Like, we are just here for whatever we get. If we're just here to watch the show, fantastic. So we ended up getting ready and we headed over to the venue about 3 o'clock, just because we weren't sure what was going on yet. And the only place that was open was this like really swanky upscale Mexican restaurant. So we went in there, had a couple of drinks, got a few appetizers, just something light, because we weren't sure if we needed to get up and leave to go do these interviews. So we settle in, and then Old School gets up and goes to find the box office to figure out what's going on. And he bumps into somebody, and this somebody recognizes him and he's all friendly, and he's like, oh, so what have you got going on? And Old School says, I've got an interview with Marco from Zandria later. And, conversation carries on, they part ways. Old School tells him about the restaurant because the band had just gotten in, they hadn't had breakfast yet, they were starving. So then he comes back to the restaurant, his face just like drops. He's like, oh. He sits down and we're like, what's wrong? What's going on? And he's like, I think I just told Marco from Zandria that I have an interview with him and I did not recognize him. And we're like, oh no. And then like had a small laugh at him, It was just one of those moments, like an old moment, but you just had to see the humor in it. And literally 5 minutes later, the whole of Zandria, apart from Amber, walk in to this restaurant, literally pull up a table next to our booth and get themselves some lunch. And Marco was so nice about it. He's like, oh, forget about it. It's okay, because at that time, Marco and the rest of the band were just in their civvies. They were in jeans, t-shirt. Marco had his hair pulled back. And bands look a lot different when they're just walking around like everyday people. They don't have that stage outfit on. And so you can understand why, Old School wouldn't recognize Marco. But they all came in, they all shook my hand. Marco, of course, recognized me because we'd done the interview on the channel before. And then they sat down, they ordered their food, and we just let them, have some peace and quiet before they had to run off and do their sound check. And while they were eating, us four were looking around the table at each other and, we all had the same idea at the same time, and we all paid. We split their bill for lunch and paid for their lunch. And I just figured we figured it was a nice thing to do. And when do you ever get to feed, you know, pay for a band's lunch like that? And, you know, they had a lot of stress that morning too. They had to go over and extend visas or something with Social Security, and you know, they were in a rush. And so yeah, we paid for their lunch. Marco just could not believe it. His face, like when it finally dropped, was like, no, like you guys didn't have to do that. And we're like, we know, but you know, you've got more important things to do, so go ahead and get your sound check done and we'll see you later. And then the time comes for when like doors start opening, so we all head up to the box office. We get somewhat situated with our guest passes and photo press passes, because of course Old School had his recording stuff because we were supposed to be doing interviews. But as I said, none of those happened. I was supposed to be joining Old School with the interview with Thomas, because I am a bit more of a fan. I do know a bit more than Old School knows about the band Camelot. But it didn't happen, and that's okay. You know, these things happen, and I understand, we understand, and everybody kept being so apologetic, and we're like, no, stop, it's fine, it's all good. We're here for whatever you need us for. And you know, they all told us that we were the best guests they've ever had. Because I guess a lot of people can be kind of pushy with that, and we're just like, no, you know, the bands come first. We are just background noise in this. So we get into the venue, we get a VIP seating area, and then this one guy who actually works at the House of Blues recognized Old School from when he went to see Bandmade, and I think his name was Kyle. I could be wrong in that, but he set us up. Like the upstairs balcony area was actually closed off to the whole general public. It wasn't even open with the bars or anything like that. He's like, hey, as soon as you have photo passes, you guys are more than welcome to go up there and sit up there and have that view of the stage from up there. So that is what we did. And that view, oh my goodness, it was amazing. Like right at the front, we were more to the right, but right at the front, just looking down on the stage. So we're sat waiting for the show to happen, and Xandria is the first band to come out. And now I have liked Xandria for a very long time as well. I think I discovered them more with their album Theatre of Dimensions, which was more of a recent release. Like, I feel like it was 2016 or somewhere like that, because I remember it coming out. We'd moved into our first home together, and I was decorating my bathroom, and that was my playlist for the bathroom, was Xandria's album. And yeah, so they came on, the whole band comes on, Amber starts singing, and that was it for me. I teared up. I was gone. But they only played for 30 minutes, but that 30 minutes was just pure bliss. And then they head off stage, and then in come the mighty Battle Beast. And like, I've checked out Battle Beast on the channel, of course, and you guys know I'm very strict with my reactions. I don't listen to anything else from the band other than what I've already heard in my reactions. So I hadn't really heard much of Battle Beast other than what I checked out on the channel. And I knew Noura, and I knew how powerful she was. But seeing it live was just such a different experience. And like, my husband, symphonic metal and that kind of metal really isn't his thing, but he fell in love that day. He fell in love with the whole band, and especially Noura. Like, how can you not? Her voice is insane. Her stage presence, crazy. And then she had that wonderful outfit with the horns, hair, and just wow. Like, Old School Nerd, like the set finished, Old School Nerd said to us, I would hate to be Camelot right now to come on after that, or any band to come on after Battle Beast. And then of course they left the stage, and then Camelot. Now, Camelot I have been a fan of since my late teens, and this was the first time I was ever seeing them live. Again, I teared up. I knew every single song in that set list. I was singing my little heart out. Like, at the end of the night, my voice was so raspy from singing and from shouting and from just having a really good time. And all three bands, and Melissa just put on such an incredible show. Just a night to remember. And at the end of Camelot's set list, you know, they took their bow, and then, you know, the bands usually hand out like picks and drumsticks and the set lists. And there was two set lists at the back of the stage, and Melissa like saw us up on the balcony, and she like waved, and she went back to grab one of the set lists, and she crumpled it all up, and she tried to throw it up to us. And the first time she missed, and it just like hit something and then bounced back off into the crowd. So somebody in the crowd got that one. The second one, she crumpled it up, and like the look of concentration on her face was something else. And Old School Nerd was like doing this, like made like a hole, like a net with his arms, and she throws it. She got it in. She made it. And as soon as it came up on the balcony, her face was like, and then she like, yeah, you know. And Old School Nerd, you know, he was very kind, and he uncrumpled it, and then he gave it to me because he knows how much Camelot means to me. And while Camelot was playing, when Melissa was off stage, she was messaging Old School, was like, hey, I see you guys up there. I would love to meet you after the show. If you can hang around for a little bit. And we're like, we'll hang around as long as you need. So the show all ends, and, you know, people are going out because it is a school night, it's a work night, it's a Tuesday evening, and that place like emptied out in 5 minutes. And we come down, and we're just hanging around by the stage, and we pick up our items that we got signed by all three bands. Old School has his license plate wall behind him. I have like a wall of fame in front of me on this bedroom, on my bedroom walls, and I printed out like 3 posters and took those with me, and they all signed them. There's like a couple of names missing, but that doesn't matter. I can get those at another time. And so yeah, we went down, we picked those up, and then we stood waiting around. And there was this other person waiting for Melissa, one of her Patreons, and it just so happened that Old School and Chelsea knew him from a different concert. So they knew him. I think his name was Brandon. He was a lovely, lovely guy. And while we were waiting, Old School looks at me and he's like, hey, Tauri, look who's over there. And I looked, I was like, because it was Thomas Youngblood, the founder and guitarist of Camelot. He'd come out to the merch booth, and he was just stood talking to some, like, I guess they were friends or something, talking to them. And he's like, Old School was like, you should go over and say hello. And I was like, I don't want to interrupt. I don't want to like butt in. He's like, no, go ahead, do it. So I looked at my husband, Rob, and I was like, you're coming with me, right? Because I am a very socially awkward person. I'm very quiet. I interject, of course, in the conversation when I want to, but for the most part, I am a listener. You will, if you ever meet me in person, you will see that. And so we walk over, I introduce myself to Thomas. I'm like, hey, I'm Tauri. And he's like, Tauri Reacts, right? And I was like, oh, yeah, that's me. And then he personally thanks me for all of the kind and positive reactions I did for the recent Camelot music. And then I explained my history with the band, and he was just very, very generous with his time and just talking about, he asked us if we were from Houston. We were like, no, we flew in from North Carolina, and it turns out he has family in North Carolina, about an hour from where we are, and he's got like a house up in the mountains that he loves to go to. And just, we had a really nice conversation, and I asked him if he wouldn't mind if we got a photo together. Of course, I'll put that here somewhere so you guys can see, but I did post it on my Instagram as well. And yeah, we talked for a good 10 minutes. Old School came over and introduced himself, and just a really, really nice, down-to-earth guy. And he complimented Melissa, you know, because Melissa was phenomenal. He said there was no drama, no nothing. She knew exactly what to do, and she never outshined Camelot whatsoever. And he was like, if we ever tour again and we need that female vocalist, we were gonna ask Melissa again. And then he even said about Battle Beast, he was like, they deserve to have the headline spot because they're one of those bands that they go on and then it makes you want to do better and it makes you be better. And that's a huge compliment, you know? And so yeah, we talked to him for about 10 minutes and then off he went. We let him go because he's the manager as well. You know, he had so much going on. And then Melissa comes out and she's such a sweetheart. She's so kind, and we hung out with her for about 10 minutes. I took a photo with her, and then we did a group shot with her. And I had her sign the set list that she threw up to us because she touched it. So I had her sign that. And yeah, just a fantastic evening of brilliant music with incredible people, and just such an overwhelming couple of days with such incredible people. And I'm so lucky that I got to do that. And so we had to get back to the Airbnb because we had to be up at 4 a.m. for a 7 a.m. flight. The journey back to the airport was like 30 minutes via Uber, so we didn't want to like be late or anything. And then we had another 4-hour layover in Charlotte when we got there, so it was a long day of traveling. But yeah, we had an amazing time. It was such a fantastic concert, one that I've been dying to see for so long, and it really truly lived up to my expectations. Honestly, it blasted through my expectations, and I'm so glad we booked that trip. We went ahead and did that. And so we got home, and then the next day I had my tattoo appointment. We finished up my sleeve. It is done. We are finished. I'm so happy with how it turned out. It's still healing. It's still in that peely, itchy stage right now. And then we had a couple of days at home just chilling, you know, getting over what just happened. And then this past Sunday, the 10th of September, we went to go see Delane and Visions of Atlantis in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is about a 2.5-hour drive for us. So we left Sunday lunchtime and got to our Airbnb. We checked in there quickly, got changed, freshened up, and then headed on over to where the venue was. Because we did buy the VIP meet and greet experience, and we had to be there for 5 to be let in for 5:30. And so there's like a little bar restaurant right next door, so we just got something small to eat there. And then of course picked up our tickets, got our lanyards, and stood in line for like 30 minutes. And I hate standing in line when the sun is out. It's so horrible. I'm like stood in my husband's shadow like this, trying not to get burnt because I hadn't put any sun lotion on. And so we enter the venue, and just walking into that AC is like, oh, feels so good. And as we walk in, I recognize somebody who is like directing everybody, and it's Robin. Now Robin she does Eye of Melian with Martine, and she's also Martine's wife. And I recognized her, and like I knew it was her, but I wanted to be 100% sure, so I googled her and I was like, yeah, that's definitely Robin. So my Robin was stood in line. I was like, I'm just gonna go quickly say hey, and I walked over and she's like, Tauri, yeah, I thought I recognized you when you walked in. And we had a good little chit chat, and you know, again, she thanked me personally for everything I did for Delane and for Eye of Melian, for the support I've given them with my reactions. And of course I've got merch from both bands and, you know, things like that. And so I talked with her for a couple of minutes, and you know, I didn't want to take too much of her time because she was organizing the whole VIP meet and greet. I get back in line, the line's going down to the signing table. I walk up to the signing table. and the whole band just lights up and they're like, Tauri! Yeah. And this is the first concert I've been to since starting my channel where the band have treated me like I was the rock star, not them. Like I was this big celebrity, and it was so surreal and so strange. But it just made me feel super happy that they knew who I were and they appreciated what I did. And I go down the line, I get to Martijn, and he stands up. He's like, oh, there's a familiar face. And he stands up and he gives me a big warm hug. And then, of course, I get to Diana and I talk to Diana. I didn't want to take up too much time because obviously there's still a line behind me and these people have paid the same as I have to do this experience. So I keep going. And then we do, of course, Diana did a acoustic performance with Ronald. He was playing the acoustic guitar and then she sang. Then after that, we did the proper like meet and greet photo, which I'm still waiting on. I'm not sure when we'll get those. It was all taken on, I think it was like Robin's cell phone. So yeah, that happened. And then they all went back stage and I was supposed to be meeting with Visions of Atlantis. Just a quick meet and greet, just a quick like 5-minute just to say hey. Because of course I've checked them out on the channel. I've interviewed Clemmy. And I was supposed to go see them when they did their first US headline tour, but you guys know I got sick and I couldn't go. And so again, I printed off another poster so I could get that signed by Visions of Atlantis. And Meek came out and greeted Robin and I, and he took us backstage to their little room that they had. This was the first time I've ever been backstage anywhere, and it was weird. But it was also really cool just to see how everything goes on. And they had this tiny little room, and of course all their suitcases are everywhere. Clemmy is trying to eat a sandwich. I felt really, really bad. So I didn't take up too much of their time. It was just a quick like chit chat, 5 minutes, and then we got a photo together. And then I left them to it because again, Clemmy was trying to eat a sandwich before they went on stage. I think there was like literally 30 minutes before they were going on stage. So as we are walking back out, we see the guys from Delane, and they're like, do you guys know if there's any like restaurants around here? And we're like, yeah. There's a Mexican, there's sushi, or there's just general bar food literally next door. So they're like, okay, thank you. And of course they went to go get some food while Visions of Atlantis played, because that's when they could sneak out of the venue without people noticing who they were and bombarding them. So Robin and I bought some VIP seating area because you guys know I struggle with lower back pain. Standing for that amount of time is really hard. I'll do it. If there's no other option, of course I'll do it. But there was these like really nice high seated tables to the side of the stage. And so we got one of those and we were sat there. And Visions of Atlantis come out. And they start the show with Master of the Hurricane. Oh my goodness. The show they put on is an experience. Like, they make sure that you feel like you're part of their pirate crew. They even, in one of their songs, they had people sitting down and rowing, you know, like they're in on the boat. And such an amazing experience and such a phenomenal show. Like, they sound better live, and just it was really, really nice to see them up on stage doing their thing, and hearing Clemmy and hearing Meek and just seeing that vision come to life. So they play, you know, they got a really nice welcome from the crowd, and then they head off stage and Delane comes on. This band, like of course I've liked Delane. Like I found them pretty much the same time I found Nightwish, but for some reason I fell off them. And then when I started my channel, I started getting back into them more, and then everything happened with Charlotte and the rest of the band, and they got this new old lineup, and of course Diana, and brought out a new album, Dark Waters. and they came out and they started with the Quest and the Curse, and yeah, amazing, absolutely insane performance, 1,000 times better live. Like, if you've been waiting to see Delane and you've been holding off for whatever reason, just book those tickets. Do it. You will not regret it. They put on such an incredible show. Like, all 5 of these bands put on an amazing shows that just sound so much better live and in that moment and in that atmosphere. And because there's nothing like being there with like-minded people who enjoy the same sort of music as you, and the crowd and the band interacting with the crowd, and yeah, just phenomenal shows. And at the end of their show, Meek had messaged me and he's like, hey, we're coming out to the merch table, you know, afterwards, which some bands do. So we were waiting for Meek to come out, and we just like pushed ourselves to the back. And again, the venue emptied out, or like pretty much 95%, because it was a school evening, Sunday evening. People had work in the morning, school in the morning. So we're waiting, and then out comes Meek, and again, so friendly, just talking to us. Took another selfie with him, and we were talking about, because Robin asked him, you know, how the band started and the name, and he talked about that. And yeah, we spoke to him for another 5 minutes and then let him go off and meet other fans, because of course there was people waiting. And then the next thing you know, practically the whole of Delane, apart from Diana, come out. Like, we weren't expecting that, especially if fans do like a paid VIP meet and greet beforehand. You don't expect them to come out at the end of the show as well, but they did. And again, we got to talk to them about everything and nothing for 20 minutes, like a good 20 minutes. And Ronald even said to me, he's like, this is crazy because you're like a celebrity to me, because I watch your channel and I love your channel. And my heart was just like fluttering, and I'm like, dude, this is how I feel about you all. Like, you know, those feelings you're feeling about me, this is how I feel about you. And it's just such a crazy thing when a band member or a whole band treats you like royalty and treats you like you're the rock star. And so we were talking to Ronald and Ludo, and then Xander came over and we talked to him really quick. He's the more quiet, reserved guy, and we took a quick photo with him. And then he wanted to make sure they were treating his drum kit correctly, so he went off back to do all of that. And then out comes Martijn, and Martijn's talking to us, and he's like, wait, I have some photos on my phone that I think you will like. And he runs backstage, then he comes out and he's literally showing me photos of, you know, he recently just got to hang out with Tuomas from Nightwish and Johanna. Of course, Johanna is in Eye of Million with Martijn, and they're all really good close friends. And Martijn got to hang out at, I think it's like Tuomas's like grandfather, it was his grandfather's house, and he has like a private studio in there, and he got to use Tuomas's keyboard to, you know, compose some Delane and Eye of Million songs, and he got to listen to the new Nightwish demos. He said that Tuomas was really nervous about showcasing them to the rest of the band, which, you know, I can imagine being in that position and showing your band members what you've been working on all this time. The same goes for Martijn, you know, and and so he's showing me all of these photos, and then you know, we got onto my sleeve, and you know, so many compliments on it. And he's like, yeah, Robin loves, his wife Robin, she loves nautical stuff, and she has a mermaid too. And he pulls me over to where Robin was. She was doing the merch booth, and he's like, Robin, show Tauri your mermaid. And it was like in a really awkward spot on her like hip, going down on her thigh, and I was like, none of you have to strip, you know, I don't want you stripping off. But she showed me a little bit, and then we talked about the Little Mermaid and all things like that. And it was just such a wonderful experience. And then out comes Diana. She wanted to go shower really quick because she felt like she smelled, but she probably did. But so she comes out, and you know, we get to take another selfie with her and Martine. And Martine, because he was the tallest, he got my phone and he was taking photos, and he kept like taking, he's like, smile, another one, and then another one. And you can see the progression of like Diana and I laughing about that. And yeah, we just such down to earth, friendly, incredible people, and so warm and so welcoming. And again, Robin was so lovely and just kept thanking me over and over and over again for everything and my support. And I went to go get some Delane merch because I really liked one of the t-shirts they had with the tour dates on the back. And I had my card out ready to pay, and she's like, no, please take it. And I was like, are you sure? She's like, yeah, please. And that was like my first piece of merch that I haven't personally paid for, and that was gifted to me, and that just really touched my heart. And of course I bought merch from Camelot, I bought merch from Battle Beast, Zandria, and Visions of Atlantis, and I will post photos of them so you guys can see what kind of merch they had. And just this past week has been insane, but so incredible. And I'm so thankful that I get to do this kind of stuff. And I want to thank, you know, of course, my contact at Napalm Records as well. She set up a lot of this, and if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have met Visions of Atlantis backstage, and we wouldn't have been able to set up interviews with Marco and Camelot. Even though those fell through, you know, we're still extremely thankful and we're still extremely grateful. And Napalm has been such a wonderful record label to work with for reactors, because they truly understand what reactions are becoming and what they do for bands and the support. And it's, you know, it's just really, really nice to see. And finally, I know I've been talking for like 40 minutes, but finally I want to thank my husband. You know, he has been so incredibly supportive since the day I filmed my first ever video and uploaded it up until now, and he will continue to be so. You know, he's been with me through this whole thing, and he has never once doubted me or told me I shouldn't do it. He's always known how much music has meant to me, and he's always known how much you guys mean to me and how much the channel means to me. And we need to get to 50k so he can come back on a stream, and you guys can meet and talk to him again. And we're getting there. We're slowly inching that way. But yeah, I just wanted to do this quick. I say quick, it's like 45 minutes, almost an hour later. If you guys are still with me, thank you so much for hanging out. If you're interested in any more of these kind of like just sit down chit chat videos, please let me know. Because I'm not really a reviewer type person, like I don't really do reviews, but if you guys want to hear my experience and hear what happened and things like that, just let me know, and I'll try and continue to do so after going to see bands. Because it's just too much to write in an Instagram post. I was trying so hard yesterday when I was posting about, you know, of course, meeting with Delane and Visions of Atlantis, and I was really trying so hard not to make my caption so long, and I failed. I still failed because there was just so much that happened and so much I missed out. And so I kind of wanted to film this for you guys and get this out there. Just to let you guys know of my experience, and if you've been wanting to see any of those 5 bands that I mentioned, that you should definitely try to and go ahead and do so. All five insanely talented, phenomenal bands, and such lovely, warm, humble people as well. You know, you can truly tell that's their passion and that's what they live for. So thank you so much, guys, for being here with me on this and for listening to me ramble on about this whole week that I just experienced. And I appreciate you. I appreciate your support. If it wasn't for you guys, my channel would not be here. It would not be what it is. I love you all. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week and your weekend and whatever else you have planned for the rest of the year. And yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe to become a Taurian. Speaking of becoming a Taurian, all of my social media links and my Discord link are down in the description. We'd absolutely love to have you come hang out in the Discord community. And I will see you guys in the next video. Rock on.